New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello, and welcome to Global Focus Today. I'm Reverend Sharri Johnson, your host, and with me today is our guest, Reverend Marie Kirkland, who is from the Living Aligned Focus Ministry. She is the founder and the spiritual director of that ministry, which features the Living Aligned community. And that is a sacred space for people who are seeking to integrate practical spirituality and intentional living practices in their daily lives to experience more peace and greater joy as they do their meaningful work in the world. Not a bad motion for me. Her ministry is the beneficiary of her applied education in the areas of spirituality, business, psychology, and communication. Reverend Marie is a graduate of Holmes Institute, the School of Spiritual Leadership, and the Jack Welch Management Institute at Strayer University. She's currently pursuing her doctorate of business administration with a specialization in organizational leadership. She's a contributing author to the Amazon best-selling book, Speaking Your Truth, Volume 2, and her new book, Intentional Living, Doing Less to Becoming More, is forthcoming. I am so delighted that you are with us, Reverend Marie. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and to connect and to just share this time with you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I am so grateful that you showed up. So I'm just going to ask you questions and you can talk as long as you want to talk. And if I leave anything out, you talk about it anyhow. So the first one, of course, is what drew you to focus ministry as opposed to pulpit ministry?
What drew me to focus ministry? Well, it was my journey to focus ministry was really an evolution, right? So it was an evolution from me as a practitioner. I led a licensed study group, everyday spiritual living. And from that, as a practitioner, I also had a study group. And so not a study group, a teaching chapter. And this was a natural evolution. And for me, focus ministry allows me to connect with people on a particular path. But in our community, to actually to live the practice for practical spirituality and to apply all of the teaching into our daily lives. Because what I found is that we have our the times when we are, say, at our center or in classes, or we have our spirituality and then we have our life, right? And so what was important to me was to be able to have a focus where we can integrate both of them, Yeah. So we can live now, what I say in my community, we can live aligned, we can live now, and we can live forward, as we're doing our work, not either or this and then that. So
that's the practical part of practical spirituality.
Right, practical spirituality, to live it. We're in the Centers for Spiritual Living, and to me, one of the main And for me, the most important word, right, in Centers for Spiritual Living and in Living Aligned is the word living. How do we live this teaching? How do we live our lives in the way that we're living our highest good, we're living spiritual principles, and we're applying it? Yeah.
What does that look like as a ministry? Is it how would you describe it in terms of here's what I do and here's how I do it?
That's a great question. Thank you. So what this looks like for me is we have, as you read my bio, that we feature the Living Aligned Focus Ministry features our online community, which is Living Aligned Community. And what that looks like for us is we have something called circles, and our circles are, and I apologize. What our circles do, okay, let me pause for a moment. Yes, because my pet family actually loves to be present with me. So now let me just take a breath, and live in the moment. And now this is how you actually live aligned. You take a breath, you live in the moment, and we practice. Okay, so what that looks like in our community is that we have an online community that is specific to what our purpose is. And our purpose, again, as you shared, is to be able to integrate practical spirituality and intentional living. And what that looks like for us is we have circles, and these circles are specific to our overall purpose. So I want to give you an example. For example, we have our Live Aligned Now book circle. And what the focus is for this circle is rediscovering inner wisdom and embracing curiosity, right? And this month, we're starting a book, Set Boundaries, Find Peace. And this is a way so that we can apply what we do, the spirituality and the practical aspect of it. We also have another circle called the Spiritual and Thought Leadership Circle. Now, this circle is made of New Thought ministers. And what our focus is to navigate the rapidly changing spiritual environment. And it's a sacred and collaborative space for conscious leadership and transformational growth. And so our circles support our growth, okay? And so in it, we are able to, for example, in our Spiritual and Thought Leadership Circle, we come together and we're reading the books and we're talking about it, but we're also adding, right, to the body of work. What does that look like as a New Thought minister? What does that look like in our communities? How can we take this and transform what we're doing and embrace what we're doing in a different way? And so it is the applied knowledge and the experience and the collaboration that we're able to bring it to our meaningful work. So those are just two of the ways that we come together within Living Aligned.
Well, and that's a good start on my next question, which is who does your ministry serve and how do you reach them? I understand that the circles are one way you reach them. Is that the primary method, or do you have other kinds of outreach?
Okay, so who does it serve? It does serve people who are on their spiritual path and seeking to actually live it, right? So the way that we reach them is mostly word of mouth, right? And then people can find us on our website. And also we are embracing, in the moment, we are expanding our social presence, okay? So we're not in Facebook, we have our own community.
So what is your website? So that
the website
can put it up so people can see it.
Yes, absolutely. So the website is livingalignedfocusministry.org. You can find us there. Now the community is livingalignedcommunity.org.
So you have two websites.
Right. One is an online community and the other one is the website. Now, also, when you go to Living Aligned Focus Ministry, you can get to the community from there as well.
Excellent.
And some of the other ways that we show up is we have programming available, and you can also find that on the website as well. And the programming we have right now is Living in the Moment, where I connect with different people, mostly leaders, and how do we live in the moment, and we explore a specific topic, right? And these are short, just short conversations that are profound, but they're how are we living right now in this moment. And another thing that we have on our programming, and this is in our Living Aligned studio that you can reach from our website, is we have the Living Aligned, the Living Aligned Living Forward podcast. So that is available as well. So we do have original programming, and we are expanding that as well.
Excellent.
Yes.
So I presume how we contact you or your ministry is through your websites, but how could others support your ministry?
Oh my goodness, yes. You can support the ministry by going to livingalignedfocusministry.org, and there is a tab right there that says Inspired Giving. So you can.
Oh, I like that so much better than donate.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And so when you give to our community, what that does is it helps us to reach more people and to continue the good work that we're doing in the world. And we also give to other communities who are, doing work in the world that nurtures,
Well, you have anticipated my next question again, because my next question is, how does your ministry support and expand conscious evolution?
Well, one of the ways that we do it is we ensure that the voices are heard in the world. So, like I said, with our programming, and it supports conscious evolution by us actually practicing, So as each person practices being present, living in the moment, living aligned, what that does is it causes a ripple effect. Okay. And so it causes a ripple effect in our individual communities, our spiritual communities, our personal lives, our families. And that's one of the ways that it has a global presence and global evolution. It supports it.
Now, living aligned makes perfect sense to me, but there might be some folks watching this who aren't familiar with the term. So could you kind of define and expand that for us, what living aligned means?
Okay, let me just kind of give you an example. Have you ever been in your life to where you are, whether you're new to spirituality or whether you've been practicing it for a long time, and you have your practice, and then the rest of your day comes along, and you are maybe out of sorts, you're out of alignment, and so you have your spirituality, right? Your moments where you have your rituals, your peace, and then you have the rest of your life. And so sometimes it can become disjointed, right? And so a lot of times our work, and this is also true for people who are spiritual leaders, our work can often consume us, right? Where we don't have space in our life for us, right? So instead of having this and this, what we do is we integrate, right? Who we are, what we're doing in the world, our meaningful work in the world, our spirituality with practices, with ways that can support us. And one of the things that is so very important for me is to make room in your life to live. And this is what it does. When you're living aligned, you have made room in your life for you to live the fullness of your life, live all of your life.
And I suspect that that's going to just slide right into my next question, because this is my favorite question. This is
Okay.
my big, and that is, how does your ministry contribute to world peace?
Yes. When one can find inner peace, right? When one can experience inner peace, then you cannot give away something that you don't have, right? When your ministry, right, because we do have a group of ministers who are navigating this rapidly changing environment. And so when you personally can experience inner peace, and when your ministry can experience inner peace, and you're giving that out to the world, this is how it contributes. And also, I also serve on many committees within Centers for Spiritual Living to be able to share not only who I am and the gifts that I have in the different areas, the intersections of my experience, but also to be that presence, of alignment, in the different areas and the different committees.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So I have another question, but I want to ask, is there anything you'd really like to talk about that I haven't mentioned before I hit you with the big one at the end?
Ah. Well, one of the things that I'd like to mention is what the ministry does is it really taps into the living aspect of life. You know, the living aspect of life and being prepared for something greater, right? Being prepared for that highest call, that highest vision that is already seeking to come through us, to share in the world and to be present. Being that we need space in our life, I am a huge proponent of creating that space so that we can be what we are here to be and to do what we're here to do. And so not overwhelming our lives, right? And I am very good at living in well, not so good at living in overwhelm. So the practical aspect of life is important. So I just want to say again, make room in your life to live. Yeah.
So that's the most perfect segue to my next question, because
Okay.
talking about a practice is a good thing. It's informative and it helps us understand things.
Right.
But experiencing it is a whole lot better. So could you give us some examples of the kinds of practices and the ways you go about making that space in life so it can be alive in whelm instead of overwhelm?
Mm-hmm. Some of the ways that I make space in my life, and I invite others to do the same, is having boundaries, right? Which opens up and gives you freedom to experience life emotionally, physically, and creatively. So I have that space in the morning I call monk mode, where I'm able to go within and to deepen, to do my spiritual work, to do whether it's reading, whether it's being in the garden or walking or jogging or whatever it is, moving my body, being in that space where I can connect with the divine, right? And myself. So when I can fill my cup, so then when I am connecting with others, I can give from that space, right? From the overflow. And what this also allows me to do and others to do is to create margins in our life. So everything is not back to back to back, right? And so in my schedule, that's very important as well. And in the way that we schedule things inside of the community, it is an example of how to practice having that space in our lives. So space is very important, and it allows us to have that time to practice. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is something that I have just begun to understand for myself. And that is that it's really important to have intervals between your tasks.
Yes.
And I've always called that breathing space.
Yes.
Between, so you have a chance to let go of whatever the last thing was, that last dragon you were battling, and breathe a minute before you start looking at the next dragon on the list.
Yes, absolutely. And having that space for, we have our to-do list. And I firmly believe that having a to-be list, that we are being first before we begin looking at the to-do list, is so important. Yes, having that space is important, and what we do in it. Yes, instead of moving ourselves out of our lives, to be able to do that and to unplug. Did you know? I'm not sure if you know this, but I'm sure you may, right? I rediscovered the fact that you can actually turn your computer off. There is a button where you can actually unplug. And a lot of times we don't do that because we're so busy doing, and being, especially as spiritual leaders, we are doing our meaningful work. And sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves. So that is one of the things that's also important. And this is also true for spiritual leaders, but also first responders and people who are in the giving professions. Yes. So.
I had a professor in ministerial school who said that the biggest problem of the human race is that we were living Frank Sinatra's life crossways, sideways, something like that, because it's supposed to be do, be, do, be, do, and we were just doing do.
Yes. Yeah.
And we do a lot more of the be in between the do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I call that monk mode my God time in the morning, and I have my puppy actually has her own meditation pillow beside my rocking chair, and she comes in with me, and I light the candles, and we sit down to pray, and she meditates while I meditate.
Yes.
And I can remember years ago when I didn't have that part of my day. I'm kind of surprised that I survived it. Because I can't imagine not having it now. It would be a punishment. It would be something I would just dreadfully miss if I couldn't do it now.
Yes, it shows up different ways. For me, it has showed up in my body temple when I am not aligned, right? And I want to share something else, that intersection. There's power, the power of alignment is very evident in the intersection of life when truth is before you, right? Paradox is behind you, two things being true. And then you have doubt on one side, and then you have faith on the other side. And so often we're in that intersection. If you can think about, and this is another example, you said, how does this show up? If you can imagine, and I don't know about your state, but here in North Carolina, we have circles. You're driving and then there's a circle and you can get off on either way. So imagine you're in that circle, and sometimes you can continue going around that circle, right? And you can kind of get lost. So we consider something may be going on in our lives. And yes, we are maybe a little confused because two things may be true. And so it is standing in the middle of the circle, pausing. What are we to do, right? Breathing in, doing our spiritual practice, integrating that practical spirituality with intentional living practices, and then taking the next step, you know? And sometimes taking the next step is asking for help. Sometimes it's journaling. Sometimes it's taking a class. Sometimes it is being in spiritual collaboration and conversation with other like minds. It can mean a lot of different things, but it is in that moment when we're in that space where it is so important for us to take a next step. And are we living aligned? Are we living now? Are we living forward? What is it that we're doing and making room for, or not making room for in our lives? So, and
I think the most important word in everything you just said was pause. You only said it once, and you kind of supplied, but that is a skill that is not taught in our society. It's not. We are not taught in school, grade school, grammar school, high school, college. We are not taught in any training to pause.
Yes.
And that is an enormously powerful tool to just stop and take a breath.
Yes, take a breath. You know, breathing is something that, we recognize it when we have difficulty breathing.
Yeah.
But breathing is so important. It's the first thing we do when we come into this world, and it is the last thing. We take our first and we take our last breath. So paying attention to that and adding that as part of our daily ritual, to take a moment to appreciate the breaths that we're having, not to just simply do it because, we have to breathe, but to focus on the breath, as you mentioned, your spiritual practice and meditating. Yeah. So these are some of the things that we can do.
I can remember years ago when I discovered the importance of that, because I would get so tense that I would literally stop breathing.
Yes.
And I wouldn't realize I had stopped breathing until all of a sudden I went, And that only had to happen a couple of times before I caught on to the fact that, there was something that I needed to do about that. But there are practices that are part of that alignment, I think.
Yes.
That the average run-of-the-mill person might not consider to be a spiritual practice, but inspire means breathe in.
It does. It does. Yes, to breathe in. And what are we breathing? What are we inspiring? What are we aspiring to as we are inspired? And to, look at our lives. Look at our lives. Yeah. And
so I have a couple more questions for you. The first one is, what do you see as the future for your ministry? What does your ministry look like in the next, 6 months?
In the next 6 months, the future of my ministry, and I'm so excited that you asked that, is that we're going back to the basics in terms of what we planned for the ministry in the beginning, before pandemic, is and creating an online summit or retreat, and then we'll have an in-person retreat as well. So our one of our original plans was to, because we're online, is to have retreats, one that is online and one that's in person, so we can come together. So that's one of the things that we're doing.
So here's the next question.
Okay.
Now, take a breath. Because what I'm going to ask you to do is imagine that right now, the next words you say, whatever you ask for, you're automatically going to get. What would you ask for your ministry if you knew you could have anything you want?
Wow.
That stops everybody, by the way. Not
yes.
Just you.
That is a very good question. And so I would say, if we can have anything for our ministry, that would be a part of what we're doing right here today, an expanded global presence. Yes. And to be able to reach people wherever they may be in the world. And so that is one thing I would say. And can I say two things?
You can say anything.
Yes. And inspired giving to support the work that we do in the world. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And are there any special projects that people could do inspired giving for, this or that special project that you're focusing?
Yes, for our upcoming retreats. Yes. So we're going to have the in-person retreat in April, and I would definitely I would like support with that. We can use support with our retreat, and it's going to be actually at a botanical garden here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So it's going to be deepening. And actually in the evening, we're also going to have an ordination ceremony. So yes, that would be wonderful. And for our online retreat. So I will definitely thank you for asking that. And so I will add that to our online giving and how people can specifically give to those two things.
And also, you've talked about the circles, and I know that your community has more than one minister. You have a bunch of ministers. So if people were interested in joining that gathering, how would they go about it?
Oh yes, go to livingalignedcommunity.org, and when you go there, you can just go ahead. There is a place where it says join or explore, and you can come right on in. And look on the left-hand side, and it says circles. And when you click circles, the spiritual and thought leadership circle is right there, and you can go ahead and you can join the circle. And actually, this month, through the end of the year, we are exploring and experiencing this magnificent book called This Odd and Wondrous Calling. So I invite you to go out and take a look and join us. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's marvelous. So would you, I hope, be willing to come back and visit with us again?
Yes, I would. Thank you so very much. I've enjoyed being here.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that you will all join us again next week. Our guest next week is Reverend Verona Garland, and her ministry is called Prosperity on the Moon. So don't miss it. It'll be exciting. Thank you.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.
Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing